Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Lisa Gunshore. I am your host. And don't forget to subscribe to the Buddhist Biohacker YouTube channel if you have not already. We have so many great things coming up, including OHO, which we can talk about later. And welcome to today's show. So today we are talking about the empath and the endocrine system. And I am joined by two incredible women, Suzanne Hunt of Energetic Healing Arts and Denise Maple of Live Life Spiritual Direction. And we are going to talk today about the empathic experience and how it connects to the endocrine system. And so I'm just going to kick this off with just saying, many of you that are watching us here today identify as sensitive, intuitive, empathic, and almost all of us have had burnout, thyroid issues, adrenal fatigue, emotional overwhelm. And today we're going to talk about these as not symptoms, but as actual messengers of information. And we're going to dive into a little bit with Louise Hay and Jacques Martel, our personal experiences, all of those things. And so I'm going to kick this off. Welcome, Sue. Welcome, Denise. Welcome in. And let's just, whoever wants to jump in, but I just thought we'd start with what drew you even into this conversation today, and wherever you want to go, let's just do it.
Sue, please go ahead.
Sure. I'm an empath, and as you mentioned, we've got a lot of people in the audience who are empaths, and we might want to define that a little bit for people who may not be familiar with the term. So an empath, as you said, is someone who's very sensitive, highly sensitive to their environment. They're highly sensitive to other people. So they have like a super awareness. They tend to develop an intuitive awareness as they go through life. And so it may, empathic nature or an empathic aura, as I look at it from a clairvoyant perspective, tends to develop maybe when we've had some kind of trauma or painful experiences in our early life. We might have trauma, we might have a series of part of our life where we experienced a lot of fear. So we were constantly trying to become more aware. What is the other person doing? If there was aggressor, or if there was a bully, or someone who abuser in the picture, or even just situations that are very fearful, we're looking to see what's going on, and we've heightened our awareness. So that can be both a gift in that we empaths become intuitive and they can open up that space in their lives if they choose to. It's naturally there. But it can also be a challenge because they become so aware of other people that it's hard sometimes to find themselves. It's hard to come to center. It's hard to know what energy is mine and what energy have I picked up from other people. So one of the reasons I was drawn to this conversation is that I really want to help people become more aware of what this dynamic is, and talk about some ways to move through it. And maybe even, first of all, what's it doing to our endocrine system? What's happening in the body, as Lisa was mentioning. So that's why I'm here, and I'm excited to get into some nuts and bolts. And thank you for opening that up for us. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Sue. And my name is Denise Maple. I'm with Live Life Spiritual Direction. And, I have had endocrine issues. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's and Graves' disease probably about 5 or 6 years ago, which both are in remission. And I don't even like saying remission. I just like saying it's gone, and it's gone for good.
Awesome.
I really relate to the explanation that Sue just gave about an empath. I grew up, I would say, not having my feelings valued, and was shut down at times when it made certain people in my life uncomfortable, whether that was, their own fear of what I was planning to do or say, or if it made them uncomfortable. So that just kind of shut this chakra down quite a bit. I've been working pretty hard, especially in the last 6 years, to reawaken it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy to have both of you here. I think Denise and I had a discussion here on YouTube about health and healing, and it came up, this whole idea of the endocrine system and the empath. And Sue, I was reminded of an awesome show and presentation and teaching that you did back in 2020, of all things, here on the channel. So those of you who are on YouTube on Buddhist Biohacker, you can actually search Sue and the empath and the endocrine system. And she did a great presentation explaining how it all links together. And so it just connected for me, like, oh my gosh, I've got to get Sue and Denise together so we can have this conversation, because it's a big conversation. And I'm drawn to it because I also had Hashimoto's. I was grateful that Dr. Jill Carnahan was my doctor, because she said, we're not even going to diagnose this. This is not what it really is. And we dealt with mold, and sure enough, it is also gone and has come back and never will, hopefully. So I'm drawn to this because, we have all of this toxicity in our lives, in the air, in our water, in our food, and those things impact our endocrine system. And, I understand there's a deeper kind of plot against us in some ways. I hate to say it that way, but, there is a desire by the controllers of the planet to shut down our endocrine system and our pineal glands and our pituitary glands, and not just to make us sick, but also to shut down the cities, these supernatural powers that we carry in our light bodies. And so clearing out your endocrine system of those toxins allows these centers to open up and to connect with clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairaudience, clairsentience, all those gifts that we carry, or in yoga, they call it the siddhis, those supernatural powers. And so I'm very passionate about all of us detoxing and opening up our light bodies so that we can be more connected and evolve and move into these other dimensional realities that exist that we want to tap into. And so that's kind of where my focus and plan is. And I'd love to start out just throwing this out to both of you. I'd love for each of you to share a little bit about your personal journey with not just the endocrine, but with your empathic. Sue, you gave such a great description of what being an empath is. And I'd love to just hear a little bit about how did you each discover your own empath? Like, when did you understand you were an empath, and what did that look like? And maybe some of your experiences. And I'll throw it out to the audience too. Those of you that are watching, I'd love for you to share your own experiences in the comments as well. But Sue, Denise, whichever one of you wants to go first, but I'd love to hear, when did you discover you were an empath? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. And I actually don't remember. I think it just kind of evolved over time. And I think I was trained when I was young to manage some other people's emotions and be in tune to it. And so that's how it started. Honestly, I don't even remember. I feel like I've known it forever, but I haven't, if that makes sense. I will say some recent information that has been very helpful is I read Sensitive is the New Strong by Anita Moorjani this year. I attended one of her retreats in April, and she talks a lot about that. And I really identified with that. And, that idea of having my voice and my feelings shut down and leading to an unworthiness wound that I realize also is not only this life, but coincidentally, I got a past life reading sent to me this morning that identified witch wounds that I knew were there. But it just explained a little bit more about that. So if we have these parallel lives or past lives where we're also shut down by the patriarchy, by the system, by whoever, is operating in those past lives. If we can heal that now, I believe it heals through all of those lives for us.
And, there hasn't always been a term for it. You were saying, Denise, well, we don't know really when you identified that. There hasn't really been a term for it until quite recently, maybe the last 10, 15 years. We're seeing material out there where people can look at this or read about it, hear about it, and understand that that is something that they're dealing with. And my situation was pretty dramatic. My father died when I was 9 years old, and my mother was left with 4 children and had to go back to school, to college, in order to get her degree, in order for her to be able to support the kids. And through the family dynamics, the loss of my father, which was a tragedy, which quickly turned into more trauma for me, as I had some abuse situations from a family member, and also felt a little abandoned by my mother during that time. So a little lost, and found myself always becoming hyper aware of what was going on. Was it safe? Was this next few minutes, am I safe now? When so fear was kind of always bubbling in the background. And I throughout my life, my early life, I think I was actually out of my body. When people have trauma, stress, and things are really challenging, it's not uncommon for us to float kind of up above our body so that we're not grounded, we're not there in our body, and we can't really connect to our own feelings. But I discovered kind of in my 40s, I guess it was, I learned to meditate, and I learned to work with energy, and I realized that what my dynamic was, that it was just that my aura field was very light, very fine, and that I could work with that in meditation and be grounded and work with empathic abilities and use that as an intuitive gift. So that's how my awakening came, was really later in life. And at that point, I don't even think we talked about that, would have been like 2000s. The talk about an empath or sensitives was just kind of opening up. But stress is a big factor. And maybe at some point today, I'd like to talk about how stress impacts the endocrine system, and how blocks our ability from de-stressing and grounding and connecting in with the happy hormones that really help us calm our body.
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to get into that. Like right after, my experience, I share this story. I'm sure people have heard it before from me, but I remember being I was probably like 20, maybe 21, but I think I was about 20. And I went to the movies with my sister. And I remember sitting in the movie theater feeling extremely anxious. Like I was anxious. And, I had a cell phone, but that was a while ago. So it wasn't like you're checking your phone and social media and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I was just kind of antsy at the movies. I felt anxious. I felt like something was wrong. And even my sister was like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "I don't know. I feel so anxious. I just don't feel right." And I remember after the movies, going to the restroom after the movies, and there were 2 girls sitting next to us, and they were in the bathroom, and one of them was crying, and she was having some issue with her boyfriend, and her friend were talking about it. And it really hit me. Oh my gosh, I was feeling this gal's anxiety the whole movie. And so that was years ago now. And I was young at the time, so I didn't understand it was like empathic, but that was definitely has stuck out to me as the moment where I connected the dots and realized that I was actually feeling somebody else's energy without even realizing it. And it was overcoming me rather than me being able to separate myself. And it's what led me to go to the clairvoyant training program years later and really try to understand how to navigate my energy when I'm connecting with somebody else's energy. And that said, I'd love to get into the topic, Sue. Like, let's just go with the flow. But like, I'd love to get into what you were saying about stress and how it impacts the endocrine system. And I also would love to talk about like our emotions, anger, anxiety, frustration, how that impacts us as well. So yeah, let's dive in.
Sure. So just as you were saying, empaths, we're more aware of other people's situations, almost more than our own. So we become other focused, more focused on other people. We've absorbed that energy, and that brings stress into the body. And actually, any kind of stress, if you just kind of think about stress, our adrenals are pumping out that cortisol, and we go into that fight or flight syndrome. And so we're always on the edge, hyper aware. And just like you with the girls in the bathroom and realizing you were actually processing their stress, their fear, or whatever emotions it might have been. So we've got the adrenals that are pumping out this cortisol, keeping us hyper-focused. Cortisol tends to actually start to cause weight gain for some people. It can cause risk of high blood sugar, high blood pressure, and later on, more types of health issues. We can have mood swings from depression to anxiety, and which may even be causing sleep issues. So the body has a natural way of coming back from that fight or flight system. And that is, so the fight or flight system, I should explain, is really our sympathetic nervous system. It turns on, we're ready to run from the tiger or whatever beast it is that we're afraid of in our current day. But our parasympathetic system is the system within our bodies that naturally calms us, relaxes us, prepares us for sleep, for digestion. And the brain, the endocrine system, creates those hormones that help us relax. So we've got the pineal and the pituitary and the hypothalamus in our brain, the three main glands in the brain. The pituitary generates some of these hormones, and then the conversation or the mind-body connection between the hypothalamus and the rest of our glands, be it the thyroid, our adrenals, all of the different endocrine glands that we have, to kind of reverse that. And those hormones that our pituitary can create will help us relax. So we have, and I did make a couple of notes to remind myself, we have like the dopamine, that is the pleasure or reward hormone that helps us feel good. We have the endorphins that kind of can be a little bit of a pain reliever, but also help us relax. You've heard the stories about the runners after they're running for miles and miles, the endorphin kicks in and they don't feel any pain. We've got the oxytocin, if I'm pronouncing that right, which is kind of the love hormone, which helps us feel connected to other people. So when that hormone's running, we feel a connectedness with others. And also the serotonin for mood, sleep, appetite, and just helping us feel happy. So the parasympathetic system can help carry those hormones down into the body to help us rejuvenate, to reset, and to kind of come back from that hypersensitivity and that hyper awareness. And so when we're on that high hypersensitive or that high stress mode, we're running that stress for longer periods of time, and the body just isn't really equipped to manage that. So for our own long-term and longevity and our health, it's good to learn to balance that the stress hormones with our happy and relaxation hormones and help our body kind of settle in after a time when we've been stressed. So.
And I love that Sue is talking about almost like the mental toxins, right? The mental toxins that get in. And Lisa, you had mentioned more physical toxins earlier. And that was a journey for me. I started working with Gwen Foster, who's a naturopath in Texas, and she really educated me on the physical toxins that should be eliminated. Like I didn't until this happened. I didn't start reading the fine print and things probably until 2016 when I stopped getting flu vaccines because of the mercury in it, which it looks like that's coming out soon, which I think is great. But also had gotten Botox for a few years and completely cut that out. Fluoride, which there is a movement. A lot of cities, municipalities are taking fluoride out of their water because they realize it should be a choice. If you want
thank
that.
goodness for RFK.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, a lot has started to happen, accelerate, since he got in there. For a while, I completely cut out caffeine. Now it is not an everyday thing. It's an occasional thing that just long-term does not work well for me. Eventually it just starts to make me feel even more tired. And luckily in 2016, I had already figured out a lot of food sensitivities. So, I don't eat any dairy, gluten, corn, oats, alcohol, artificial dyes, things like that. And I doubled down on my meditation practice and things like that, like Sue is talking about. And I'm curious, Lisa, if you know a lot about this, and Sue, what are some of the other physical toxins that perhaps we should consider eliminating?
Well, one thing I would love to share is the genetic piece as well. We all have genetic SNPs or, mutations in our genetics and our DNA. And I've been doing this DNA testing as well as the organic acids testing. So I love data. Definitely. I mean, even the tarot cards are data. You know what I mean? I love to analyze data. And so one of the things that we want to consider too, 25% of the population has the MTHFR genetic mutation, which is metatetrahydrofolate. But all it really means is we don't methylate, we don't detox properly. And I've noticed in not just the DNA testing I've been doing, but the organic acids test specifically tests what you're talking about, Sue. It tests the neurotransmitters, your serotonin, your dopamine, your oxytocin, and most everyone has 0 in their test. They're completely out of their neurotransmitters that, like you said, make you feel happy, make you feel connected, make you feel calm. If you're missing those, and if you blow them out easily, and that's what happens with the genetic testing, is I'm noticing almost every single person I'm testing, I think because they're drawn to me as well, but I would just say almost every single person I'm testing is blowing out their neurotransmitters. And what does it look like when you blow out your neurotransmitters? Temper, anger. I don't have any patience for any of this.
Right.
Like, that's blowing out your neurotransmitters. And what is the number one way? You can't really take a supplement for your neurotransmitters. I think that's something that's really important for everyone to understand. You can't, if you're low in dopamine, you can't just go take dopamine, really. There's some things that may or may not work. What is the number one way to support your neurotransmitters? Meditation, yoga, being in nature, running, like you said, fitness, exercise. Like, these are the things that support you. And so I want to remind everyone, when you're talking about the toxins, Denise, like, if we have genetic mutations and or toxicity and or we have an environment that is challenging, an abusive environment, like what you were saying, Sue, you had in your past, like, if we have that, our neurotransmitters are blown out and we don't have that for us, the best thing we can do is practice meditation. And I think something just like the fluoride, our phones are just as challenging. You know, our phones, our computers, all those things. And for those of us, like all three of us, our work is YouTube, Zooms, you know, being on our phone, being on social media, like that's part of our journey now as spiritual teachers and healers. And we also have to take time to shut those things down, go out in nature, practice meditation, get on our yoga mat. So I think it's important to understand that and understand that the best way we can take care of ourselves is through those self-care practices to be able to heal, even beyond looking at our food, looking at our water. You know, we have a Berkey filter at our house that filters out fluoride and heavy metals. I also know I haven't, since 2011, I haven't had a soda or, I haven't had a Coke since 2011. I haven't had wheat or gluten since 2011. I haven't had dairy since 2011. So like you're saying, Denise, and I know Sue is the same. I mean, all three of us, we choose to be clean because we've seen its impact on us in a negative way. I know when I get pushed too far, I feel like I just want to scream. And sometimes I do. I'm just like, ah! And it's because I have nothing left in my reserve for my neurotransmitters because of how my genetics operate and because of my sensitivities, so it's really important for us to learn energy management.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And I'm wondering your opinion on something that just came to mind. I did some breath work on the retreat I went to in Norway. It was led by Helene Anderson, who's a sound healer, vocalist, musician, very talented. And I had all of this anger and sadness bubble up that I didn't even realize was still there. So I'm just wondering if breath work, if you agree that breath work might be something.
Oh, girl. Yes. I'm only laughing because I just got back from the Telluride Yoga Festival and practiced Kriyas and did breath work. And same thing. I had an insane, in that practice, the screaming I let out and the energy release just 2 days ago was unbelievable. So yeah, I think breath work is big. And I also did cold plunge and sauna at the festival. And I think there's something to that as well. I mean, we're breaking the iceberg of trauma. So whether it's breath work, pushing yourself to the limits, I think too, I at the yoga festival, when I felt like I couldn't do anymore, I went and did the hardest yoga class I've ever done. And that pushed me, pushing ourselves to the limits sometimes, or like Sue, you brought up the marathon runners, sometimes pushing ourselves out. So yeah, the breath work. Yes.
And a good facilitator will push you through your discomfort, because it really does take pushing through that discomfort.
Yeah, it totally does.
Sometimes I'm getting I'm getting some phrasing. I hope it's not my internet system. I think it takes intention to put ourselves first. If empaths are in the of always giving, always finding themselves attracted to people who are happy to receive more than they give, just maybe natural dynamics that we have with these people. And so it takes intention to start to focus on ourselves, and we can decide which method largely that we want to cleanse our system, whether it's working with our diet, cleansing through some of the things that Lisa, you're talking about, whether it's choosing to meditate, choosing to be in activities. Activity can help us release energy, and whether it's walking, getting outside. But I think all of those things really take a notion of intention, being willing to take care of ourselves first. And then also another thing I wanted to mention is something that Denise touched on earlier, and that is the mental. We have a situation, maybe we're angry, maybe we're upset about something, and we have that situation, and it goes round and round in our mind, and we chew on it, if you will, and we process it again and again.
Oh no, we lost Sue.
Hopefully she'll be back soon, but I really like where she's going with this, how we can ruminate over things. And it's fun. Of course, this is all meant to be. I had a really strong hit on that yesterday, because ever since I had my concussion-induced depression a year ago, it's taken me a lot longer to come back, and I got into some harmful patterns of that rumination and not focusing on where I want to go, which is what I teach. And anything I've learned about moving forward, whether it's driving, riding a motorcycle, skiing, look where you want to go. And that rumination can really get us stuck. So I'll hand it back to Sue, because I that's the last thing that that we heard, and thought that was really brilliant.
I hope I'm back. I think my
Yes, you are. You're back.
A little bit.
Clear.
Am I?
Yeah. Yes.
So sorry. I was talking about the mind chatter. Was I here for that, or?
Yes.
You had just started.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Moving on. Well, anyway, I was talking about mind chatter and how we give ourselves more pain by processing some of those negative thoughts again and again. So, moving on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. And I just want to share, I had a pretty profound understanding happen this weekend for myself that goes along with what we're talking about, which is I really feel that part of that mind chatter for me has been a lot of judgment and criticism of others. And in some ways, as an empath, as a psychic, that can actually be easier to fall into, because you see the patterns, you see other people's challenges, and it's easy to say, oh, they should X, or I wish they'd see this thing, or because we see the pattern and we want them to heal. So it comes from a positive place, but it comes out, I think, sometimes as criticism or judgment. And it's something I've really been working on. And I had this experience this weekend where I really came to understand that we judge, we criticize, we're jealous of, resentful of other people's experiences because we are not creating for ourselves the experience that we want. And so that judgment or that jealousy or that criticism is really coming from a deep desire to create our own journey. So, for example, I'm jealous of someone who can do these particular yoga postures that I'm not able to do. What it's really pointing to is my desire to practice more deeply and more often with yoga, that I was putting it aside, right? And it goes back to the empathic person who typically an empath, we're codependent. We're overgiving, we're overcommitting, we're overdoing, we're overserving. And when we do that, we deny ourselves our own experience. And so I think it's really important to point out that part of our challenge with the endocrine system being blown out, being exhausted, having adrenal fatigue, having anger issues, having, judgment of others, feeling critical of ourselves, like all of that is coming from a place of not taking care of the self. And it goes back to what I said, taking care of the self, meditation, yoga, exercise, nature, those are the things that bring us back to our center, because they're feeding the neurotransmitters, they're feeding the endocrine system. And when we're not doing that, what are we? We're angry and resentful of all the people who are doing that.
Oh, absolutely.
Really good point.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I can relate to that anger and judgment where I want to put the blame outside. And the truth is, I've allowed a lot of the behavior in years of situations. So it's got to come back to me. And yes, I need to forgive myself and I need to forgive others. That would be helpful for me. But I've also learned that it is easier for me to forgive and let go.
And I think we need to be willing to look at ourselves, to look at our wounding. What are those wounds deep within us that are there, that are triggering some of these dynamics? What are the wounds that are blocking us from focusing on ourselves? Why am I allowing to fall into this pattern? So being willing to look inward, being willing to put ourselves first, that can sometimes take a lot of strength when we've got ingrained.
Oh, we lost Sue again.
Oh. Yeah, and what as usual, what both of you are saying really resonates, and that I have really in earnest been working on a core wound over the last year or two that I think I've been working on for many years, but now I see it so much more in a crystal clear way that the feelings came up even stronger, but they have to, so that I can face them, let them move through me so I can get to the other side.
Yeah, agreed. Rick has a question. Hi, Rick. Welcome in. Rick says, does daily or multi-day fasts help with clearing your system, or does it hurt? I'd love to get you all's opinions on fasting, and because there's intermittent fasting. He's talking about daily fasts as well, right? There's 3-day fasts, there's cleanses, there's all these different things. Like, how does that help or hurt our system?
I haven't done multi-day fasts or 24-hour fasts. I've done more detoxes and intermittent fasting or meal timing. I am intrigued by the idea of fasting, though. And I think it is something I'd like to try, not only to physically clear out my system, but it's my understanding is that it can also just help you become more self-aware of what your patterns are, what your addictions are. So I personally, it sounds like a great idea to me, but I would love to hear your opinions.
Yeah, I'll jump in there briefly. I think Lisa might be kind of in her wellness programs, might know more about this. The piece I'm aware of is like a 16-hour fast. And then a length of a fast. And there's a lot of data, even. There's a lot of research that shows that 12 to 16-hour fast can really be good for the brain. So if you're able to clear, good for the brain, good for mental health, good for memory even, memory health, good for awareness, and to help clear those 3 endocrine glands that I was talking about earlier, to kind of recharge them and reset them. But Lisa, do you have any experience with the multi-day fasts, or have you done that kind of work in your practice?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you. I think fasting, and I'll say, fasting helps for sure. And I think there's lots of different options. And just like we're all a different genetic makeup, it's different for everyone. I think for women, what I would share, the endocrine system rules our hormones. And so for women, fasting is more tricky. There's some things you do want to be careful of as a female with fasting, doing it a lot. And when you do it can impact your endocrine system. So as a woman, if you're intermittent fasting, for example, it's better for you to fast after 3 p.m. until the next morning and break your fast and take in nutrients morning and midday versus skipping the morning, which is what most of us do, right? It's easier to get up and skip breakfast and skip everything and then eat in the afternoon and evening, but that actually disrupts your hormones. I just recently changed. For years, I have been bulletproof coffee, fasting in the morning, and I have really high estrogen, like an unhealthy amount of estrogen. And I've been working through that, had weight gain from it. I've had all sorts of fun challenges. I'm sure many of you women can relate to what I've been going through, and perimenopause and all these things. So I have recently, in the last 30, 45 days, shifted to eating fish and vegetables and things like that for breakfast, eggs, that kind of stuff, big breakfast and lunches, and skipping the rest of the day. And I'm seeing a profound shift in my hormones just from that change. So I would definitely do your research as women around what is right for you based on your hormonal balance. That being said, I've also done 3-day juice cleanses and things, and it absolutely clears your system. And in Ayurveda, those kinds of fasts clear out your organs and take pressure off the liver and kidneys. And the liver is what rules the endocrine system as well. If your liver is overtaxed and not working properly or full of toxicity, it impacts its ability to metabolize things like estrogen. So fasting is great. So I would say, to answer Rick's question, which was, does daily or multi-day fasts help? Yes, it totally helps. Intermittent fasting is a practice everyone, I think, wants to have at this point in time. I think it's super beneficial. And I think just looking at the different types of intermittent fasting and what works best for you, I have a really great packet of information in the Buddhist Biohacker portal, my mobile app, that talks about all of these different things as well. So, but yeah, I agree with both of you, Sue and Denise. Fasting is good. It's an interesting, when I did the juice cleanse for 3 days, I was shocked at how hard that was, and how not just hard, but how I just automatically, it's time to eat. And then I'm like, oh, wait, I'm not doing that. I'm drinking these juices. And it was whoa, I just was going stuff without even thinking about it. And that was pretty crazy. And so there's a rule. If you're planning a 1 to a 3 day fast or juice cleanse of any kind, I would say make sure that you are able to practice these endocrine supporting practices. So being in nature, yoga, meditation, and being really, really gentle with yourself. You obviously never want to fast and go run a marathon, right? You want to make sure that you're nurturing the body, the mind, the spirit when you are fasting, and that you're making it a practice. And Satyam, a few years ago, talked about fasting. We have a whole episode here about a yogi practice, which is fasting, and then you drink this saltwater tonic, and it pushes everything out of your system. And in Ayurveda too, there's some different cleanses that actually you're drinking oils and vomiting, as well as moving through things through the colon with enemas. So there are a lot of intense ways to do this as well. But I would just advise, start small. Start with skipping dinner and see how that goes for you.
That's really helpful.
Right.
And I think
Right.
because I have had some hormone imbalances, I love the idea of working to shift my meal timing to what you're describing. Because yes, have been doing more eat later, finish dinner by six or 7, but then not eating until mid morning to noon. And I'm going to try that. Thank you.
Well, what's really interesting, again, data, right? I have an Aura ring, and my liver, so genetically, I'm missing my COMT, so I have a liver challenge, and my liver's very, very healthy, so I've taken good care of it, and it's a little challenge, which is why I take belly weight and I have challenges with estrogen, all these things. And so here's what's interesting. I've switched. It's been about 45 days, I'd say, to breakfast and lunch and no dinner and like after 3. And what's fascinating is my quality of sleep, my sleep data is profoundly shifted to the positive. And I'm a good sleeper, but it's shifted to the positive since I've stopped eating around 3 or 4 and I don't eat after that time. It's taken because the liver does all of its detoxing overnight. And so I'll just share, like, it's definitely making a big difference and releasing pressure off the body. And the swelling of my belly has significantly reduced because I don't think it's having to work so hard to like manage everything that I'm putting into it. So it's definitely been a positive change to shift to eating earlier in the day and really stopping after 4.
Thank you. Super helpful.
I want to get into talking about some energetic techniques that stabilize the endocrine system. Even getting Denise, you mentioned cord cutting when we were preparing for this conversation. I'm just would love to hear from both of you. And Sue, I'll throw it to you first because you do a lot of energy work with your clients and you've done it with me. I just want to talk a little bit. Yeah, of course, Denise, you do too. Yeah, let's just kind of get into cord cutting, energy work. Like, how do we work with that to support our system and as empaths, and also to support the endocrine system?
Yeah, and to be clear, I meant Sue has helped me understand that.
Oh, I get it. Well, you also do energy work. And so Sue, I'll kick it to you. Hopefully your internet stays stable now.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. So when we're empathic, we absorb energy from other people. We talked about that earlier. And we can definitely have cords. And what our cords are energetic channels, if you will, that are coming from one individual to another. So if we have cords, say we've got a strong person in our life, maybe a partner, a family member, someone we work with that is wanting to impose their ideas to us, we may have a cord coming into our throat because they want us to talk about, they want us to say the things that they would like us to say. We may have cords into our emotional center, which is second chakra there in the lower belly. We may have cords of control in our solar plexus. So becoming aware of these cords, if we can ourselves, is good. We may need a healer or someone else in our lives that can help us remove them, help us identify where they're at and remove them. But because they're channels sending energy back and forth from another person to ourselves, or as it may be, we may be sending energy through a cord to somebody else that we want to influence. So there's plenty of techniques for removing the cords, and a lot of energy work really is done through intention and visualization. So maybe working with a healer could be a great choice. Maybe going into a very light meditation, or even using some meditation tapes or meditation by any way that a person enjoys, and just envisioning that they're removing the cord. Take a hand and grab the cord and just move it right out. But releasing energy that isn't ours can be very beneficial. And since the intention is really what drives healing, and if our body's quiet and our mind is aware, and maybe a light trance kind of a state, we can actually remove those cords ourselves. And so that would be one thought. And another thought that might even be, and she used to get upset about things that were happening in the work arena, and she would go into the bathroom and she would lean over the sink and she would imagine she was flushing that energy out down the sink from somebody else. So not necessarily a cord in that situation, but releasing the energy. I mean, and that visualization worked great for her. Or in the shower, I have another client, and I've been trying to invite her to meditate, but she's got a method that works great. She goes in the shower and lets it all, imagines that energy is rinsing off, cleansing herself visually through the method of a shower. So it's all about intention. It can be visualization, as we've talked about, cleansing it and cleansing the toxins from the environment that Lisa talked about. So many ways that we can do that. But anyway, I got off topic a little bit. That's something about cords that we can do ourselves.
And a related question I have for both of you, and Sue, maybe you could start. How do you clear, either at the end of the day when you've been working with clients as a healer, or do you clear in between clients? Like, what, if you don't mind sharing, what does that look like for you?
Go ahead, Sue.
Blinked out. I missed the question. Could you say that again, Denise? How do you clear?
Yeah. Do you clear yourself between clients, or at the end of the day on days you're working as a healer? What, if you don't mind sharing, how does that look like? What does that look like for you?
To clear cords, or
like after
some of
you're
it blanked
working
out.
with,
I'm sorry.
that's
Clearing
okay.
cords,
Your
Denise.
poor internet. Your poor internet. She was just asking, like, how do you clear yourself after clients? Do you do it in between? Do you do it after?
Oh, yeah. Good question. Thank you. Yeah. So I, after I've worked with a client, I sit in a different chair, preferably. I make sure I'm grounded, and I use an image. Typically, I work with a lot of bubbles or roses, and just imagine that person's energy flowing out of me and into that bubble or that rose, a container, if you will, just to use as a visualization. And so I'm imagining, if I worked with XYZ client, that their energy flows out of my space and into that container. And then I release that to the universe to let it be destroyed and destroyed and diminished. And then I also like to take a look at, when I've worked with a client, since I really believe we have we attract clients who have issues that we have or have had in the past. So if I'm working with a client that has certain kind of issues or wounding that they have been facing, I like to look at myself and ask, what kind of similar wounding have I had? What kind of similar energy do I have within me that's similar to the client? And I like to release that. So I'm getting kind of a little healing for myself as well as working with the client. Replenish my own energy, reset myself at my own vibration, and then I'm ready to go for my day or the next client, as it may be.
Yeah. And I would say for me, I have like incense, smudge sprays, that kind of thing. So in between clients, because I often do back-to-back clients. So I may just spray my smudge spray or light some incense or anything to just kind of clear the space in between clients. And I'm a big believer in salt baths at the end of the day. So my big release, and it's clients or no clients. At the end of the day, if I feel like I'm depleted energetically, I get in a big old salt bath. I light my candles. I play my Navajo flute music, and I just kind of sit back and let the salt kind of clear my space and my energy, and also replenish my minerals and just give me my space back. Sometimes I do meditations in the bathtub as well. So the bath is a big one. It's funny, Sue, you were bringing up the shower. and the sink. And I have this crazy visualization, but after a challenging client, and I don't mean the client's challenging, I mean, they've had challenges. It might be a very intense mediumship session where they were really sad. It might be that they're sick. There's other things, but I actually visualize that I'm sitting on a toilet and that I flush the toilet and flush all of that energy down my grounding cord, down into the center of the earth. Bye-bye. Before I go into the next session, is another visualization I use. So I like to do that.
Love that.
Right? Because it's just an easy thing to think of. It's if I'm going to pull that lever and flush things down the toilet. So I do that as well. I have
Let it go.
Yeah. I have a yoga teacher in between. She teaches yoga classes. In between teaching yoga classes, she actually has a special, her own special soap. And she goes and she washes her hands with this aromatherapy soap in between her yoga classes to clear the energy. Because when you teach a yoga class, you're still taking on that energy. So that's something she does for herself to just clear her energy and kind of wash her hands clean in between classes also. So that's another practice I think is a good one.
Thanks. That's really helpful. And I have worked with all of those before. And the one thing I recently started doing is smudging myself before bed. And, you know, I have a little saying like lovingly releasing the day, slipping into a peaceful sleep, and knowing tomorrow, trusting tomorrow takes care of itself, and just consciously letting go of any energy that's not mine or not serving me.
I love that. And you all can believe it. We're already at an hour, if you can believe that. So I would really love to invite both of you back, because we haven't even gotten into the thyroid and the throat chakra and all of these things. And I can tell from those of you watching and the comments and the things we have coming in that there's a lot more for us to talk about. So we are, I think, opening a chapter series of conversations here. So I just really appreciate both of you coming on today and being a part. I want to share with everybody watching, please register for One Heart, One Earth, Awakening the Sacred Body. It's next week. Thursday, July 10th is when we kick it off. It runs through Sunday, the 13th. If you're looking for a remote virtual retreat, it will be here on YouTube. So subscribe to Buddhist Biohacker YouTube. If you go to the website, it's below in the banner that's coming across. But for those of you listening on audio, you're going to go to buddhistbiohacker.com/OHO. And it's also in the menu bar of my website. So you'll be able to find it there. Sue and Denise, whichever one of you wants to go first, please share how folks can contact you and what kind of work you're doing with clients right now.
Go ahead, Sue.
Go ahead, Denise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So, yeah, I'll go ahead. You
My
can find me
website is
at
www.energetichealingarts.com. I think I'm blinking out. www.energetichealingarts.com. And I do intuitive work with clients, energetic healing, and on any kind of topic, any kind of challenge that someone's having. We can come together in a reading and work on that and help to clear the energy that is getting in your way of being in your truth and in your most shining, beautiful light. So.
Thank you, Sue. And you can find me at livelifespiritual.com. I am a mind, body, spirit coach, and that is through spiritual life coaching, transforming limiting and false beliefs, and healing wounds. Also Reiki and bioenergetic testing, which is measuring your energetic body for imbalances in mind, body, and spirit, and providing a frequency healing remedy, as well as supplement recommendations. Sometimes it's complementary therapies, and there's many things we can do with that. But putting it all together, mind, body, spirit, and all of them touch on all of it. And it's really been a joy to help people meet their goals, live more joyful lives, and I just love it. Thank you.
Well, thank you both. Sue is a profound energetic healer. She's my go-to if I need an energy clearing, so highly recommend. And Denise, I have my bioenergetic session very soon, and I know we're going to do a show just dedicated to my experience, so I'm pretty excited about that. And for all of you watching and listening, thank you so much. We will be back online tomorrow for Northern Exposure. We will be here all next week for One Heart, One Earth. Really excited. And we will be back. The three of us are going to be back because we didn't even get into some of the other topics that we had on our list to talk about today in this hour. Thank you so much. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching, and have a great day.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Sue.